So if anybody has any questions while we're doing this quick little lunch and learn, just chime in. Allison can help me manage anything that's in the chat or any hands that are up. This is super informal. It's just a quick overview of where we are with the Title III updates. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen right now, so I'm sharing my slides, and then we'll have, in fact, I can just pop those slides in the chat, or my mouse died on me. Of course it dies right before you're, doing something like this. So I'll put that in the chat for you. And then Allison can load it up later on the site. So thank you guys for making the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. And listening to what we have to say about the Title III, I wanted to let you know that part of the Title III grant allows for us to hire some staff. And right now, those two positions are posted. The one is a director of retention and the other is a retention specialist. Now, in many ways, a lot of the work that's being performed currently is done out of the student affairs side of the house. We're moving in this direction of hiring more staff, and we're trying to figure out exactly what jobs are still needing to be done as part of our new development of an Office of Retention. So what does this collaboration across the academic affairs and student affairs side of the house look like? How do we do better in improving our workflow? How do we support our faculty advisors better? How do we do all of those things and manage and use our data more effectively? So stay tuned for details, because we are going to be building out some capacity for all of this as we continue to move forward with hiring these two positions. The search team is for both of them has been pulled together, and we are getting some really, really great applications, particularly for the director position, which I was super excited about. It's always kind of challenging because we're challenged by the amount of money we can offer somebody in this kind of work, and we're also challenged by the fact that it is a grant-funded position. But the one thing that I did do with this is that I put in incrementally that Carlow would be absorbing the salary so that it becomes an operating cost by the end of the grant in 5 years. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. We are looking at some software to help with the whole process of advising. We're looking for software that can be multifunctional across departments that have their hands in either enrollment, recruitment, and retention strategies. So we don't know if we'll find a one-size-fits-all, but we are starting the process of looking for information on these different products. So we're looking at EAB Navigate, we're looking at Slack, we're looking at, I think the competitor to EAB Navigate is Ellucian. I don't know if we're going to continue with that one or not, but we're collecting a list of vendors. We're going to be reviewing the software products, and then we're going to be having demos of the ones that serve our needs, and then getting campus input for how we might use these tools. So there's money in the grant to purchase that software. In the grant, I do list EAB because that was the one I could get the quote for the fastest, but we're not committed to that if there are other products that serve our needs. The intention for that is to improve the workflow and the communication flow between the faculty, the advisors, and other folks, the other stakeholders in retention strategies that need to be part of that. And then also collecting and managing the data that we're using to help us enforce our retention strategies. Then the other thing that we have an update on is our universal design for learning approach. And big shout out to Jose and Tessa in our Compass program, because they are going to help us pilot this work in those two areas. And so we're going to be building out some capacity to use a universal design for learning framework in those Compass courses. And we're going to talk a little bit about what universal design for learning is in this session today. But what I wanted you to know is that Tessa and Jose and some other faculty members are going to be investing themselves in some intensive training throughout the summer around these strategies, and also in using Brightspace as the tool for facilitating instruction in our Compass programs. So in the fall, our hope is that we'll have a pilot for what this could look like, and a way for faculty to see, what did we do? How is it different? What's the success rate in implementing this? We also want to be building out training and professional development for our faculty who will be teaching the Compass courses, but also for faculty who are just interested in general in the approach and how it can improve what they're doing in the classroom. So we're going to be offering an essentials for universal design for learning in the Summer Institute. So you need to save the dates, because, and the mouse that died is not working, so hang tight with me for a second. The Universal Design Essentials, we're going to do July 15th through the 17th. And this is going to be open to anyone who wants to know more about a universal design for learning approach. So I'm bringing in Louie Lord Nelson, who is a leading expert in this area. She did her postdoc with CAST. CAST is the leading organization that build out the UDL framework. So Louie is an expert in this field. She's internationally known for her work. She's a good friend of mine, so she's cutting us a good deal. So we're going to bring her in on the 15th. We're going to have some workshops. Then she's going to do a keynote speech on the 16th. We'll have a full day of universal design for learning work. And then on the 17th, we'll have a half day that will be dedicated to more in-depth practice, but you'll be able to work with some experts in the field for that purpose for yourself. So Monday night is going to be a lot of fun. Monday during the day earlier, we'll be doing basically it's an orientation to UDL. Then we'll have Louie come in, and in the evening we'll have a networking opportunity and just some fun things. We are going to open this up because it's not very often that you get an expert like Louie to come in and get her time and talent, as generous as she's being with it. So we're going to open it up. We have, I think Meredith was telling me, we have 150 high schools that we partner with or that are part of our inner circle. So we want to open this up as an opportunity for professional development for our K-12, or mostly our high school faculty or teachers that are local to Pittsburgh that might want to participate in this. So I'll be working with Meredith and with Keely on that to see if we can bring more people in, which I think will be a lot of fun to do that. But here's the even better part for us. I have money in this grant to incentivize up to 40 faculty members at Carlow to attend this. And that's faculty, whether you're tenure track, not tenure track, adjunct, full-time, doesn't matter. I have up to, I can incentivize up to 40 people to attend. And so I really am hoping that we get a really great group of people who can come to this, participate with us, and create a community of practice, if you will, around what a universal design for learning approach is. So what is it? I stole these from Oklahoma because I thought these were really great. I adapted them slightly so that we would have some talking points. So it's basically a proactive approach to creating curriculum that engages all the things about the learner, a holistic approach to learning. Back in the day, we used to say when I was doing K-12 practice. Can you teach the student from an auditory, a kinesthetic, and a visual approach? If you can capture all of that in your lesson plan, then you will be doing a holistic approach to learning. This takes it up a notch, right? So you're really creating you're creating a pathway for all learners to learn. It has been proven that it's great for students with disability, learning disabilities as well as other disabilities, but truly good design is good design. Jackie Smith gave a really good example of this, and I want to say that she was talking about Jackie, if you're on the call, chime in, but she was talking about when you're navigating sidewalks and you might have maybe, a suitcase with wheels on it and you're coming up that ramp and you're using it. That was created for somebody who maybe in a wheelchair, but you're using it because you have your suitcase, right? That's a universal design approach. Everybody benefits. Likewise, whenever you think about an escalator, right? Again, for mobility issues, that's serving somebody who has different needs than you have, but everybody benefits. So good design is good design. So what does it mean whenever we talk about good design? When we think about the universal design for learning approach, it looks at these 3 areas. It typically starts on the bottom with the affect of why. So that's the engagement, right? If you don't get your learner in on the place where you're creating a sense of desire to learn, you may lose them. So creating that engagement, the why part, setting your goals, then the strategy of how are you going to engage them? What kinds of activities will you get them in? And then the recognition of it, and that is the what, the getting them to the visual, the auditory, the doing part. So how many ways can you represent the information that you want to share with a student? And then going back to the strategy, the how, that is also thinking about it from the perspective of multiple ways that you are assessing the learning practices. Now, some of us have been teaching for a long time, and we probably are doing some of this just by sheer nature of what we do, right? You're just doing it. But in some ways, we may be able to do it better. We may be able to expand upon it. When I started doing universal design for learning, the one bit of advice that I got is, unless you're doing a whole course redesign, and that's going to take some time, right? And it could be intimidating to do an entire course redesign. Think about it from the perspective of, what is the one thing I can change in my class that will get me to that next level, that will help me build some capacity to integrate more universal design for learning approaches. So I don't have to overhaul every rubric I've designed. I can maybe just do one activity. Or for me, the way I started was I created a liquid syllabus, which means I took the template of the syllabus that was, this is the nursing 795 class. I took that template, which is not accessible in the least if you have somebody who needs a screen reader. And I said, okay, well, I have to do this because it's departmentally, I have to adhere to the template, but I know it's not accessible. So I'll create this liquid syllabus and I'll post that up in on Brightspace so that students can actually have a mobile, something that they can read on their phone. And that's my syllabus, right? With links and different attachments to different policies, etc. So that gives you one example of, bite-sized pieces to make it a bit more manageable to think about this integration. And then finally, and if anybody wants to know more about liquid design for syllabus, I can talk about that later. So the important thing to take away from this is that it is strategic in that you have a goal in mind for what you want to get accomplished, and that you're using this as a framework. like any kind of framework, these are guidelines to help you. It's not a checklist. It's really guidelines to help you create holistic learning experiences for your students. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it, because I think it's worth taking a look at this. This comes directly from CAST, and it talks about the affect of the representation piece, the action and expression, things that you're actually going to be looking for, and then ways to do the engagement. So for example, and I'm not going to read all of this, but just to give you a high level view of it, multiple means of representation might mean that you're offering alternatives for auditory information attainment, or that you're offering options for visual information. So I'll give you an example again from my 795 class, the nursing 795 class. Now, it took a lot of time to curate content to do this. I just didn't haul off and, just throw up a few YouTube videos. I was looking for things that would represent the same kinds of information that I was trying to get across, but doing it in different ways with different kinds of speakers. So I might have a YouTube video, I might have a podcast, and I might have something that is a PDF or something that they can read, all saying basically the same thing, but giving it to them in ways, giving it to the students in ways that they could absorb it in the best way that they know how. And then I might have a discussion board that allows them to reflect on what they've read, or they can do a video of them talking about it, or maybe they do something else. They annotate something and they share with you that way. But you're giving them multiple ways of absorbing the information, and then multiple ways of representing out that they have understood it. Now, is this a lot more to grade? Yes, it is. But I at least know that my students are getting the gist of what I'm trying to get across to them. And I don't have the barriers of well, somebody, you got somebody who's very visual, who wants things quick and easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you're going to get it quick and easy, and then you're going to reinforce it in other ways. Maybe it's visual, maybe it's auditory, maybe it's something you're reading. But there are multiple ways of getting that information across to them. And then going back, I talked a little bit about the action expression and knowing that there are different ways to help them understand this. So I'm not going to get into this today, but there are great tools out there, and even the way where we can use ChatGPT or some of the other AI tools that are coming down the pike to help with the assistive technologies. I think that we also have Trio, which is a great blessing for us and people who are expert in these areas that could help us integrate more assistive technologies into our classes as we need to. One of the things that Brightspace allows us to do is it connects our learning outcomes to a student monitoring, right? So I might have, in my class in Brightspace, I may have my intelligent agents connected to student attendance. I might have it attached to the grades that are automated with, if I'm doing a quiz or any assignments, and those will trigger a response if the student is not participating, isn't turning in things, or is failing the quizzes. Those are some ways that you can think about with assistive technologies. Something else came to mind as I was talking about assistive technologies, but I can't remember now. If it does come back, I'll let you know. But just in general, I'm thinking about from the perspective of using tech to help support our student learning outcomes. Oh, I know, integrating technology in Brightspace. So we talked a little bit before about how library resources can be integrated directly into Brightspace. We can also integrate directly into Brightspace, help and from the Center for Academic Achievement. So there are a lot of ways that we can build these assistive technologies directly into Brightspace to help our students navigate and just become more adaptable in that space. So, and then again, I was talking about the multiple ways of engaging, again, going to the perspective of, you're teaching the whole student, you're bringing in a holistic perspective for education. So that brings you down to basically, presenting information in different ways, differentiating the ways they're expressing what they know, and then just creating a stimulation for motivating them to want to learn. And then it gives you some ideas about ways to do this in the classroom that you might be doing currently, or you might not have thought about in terms of combining these things, like combining a PowerPoint with a video. Or combining some way for them to write out and or engage in a discussion, so that you're giving them multiple ways of sharing back the information that they have. So in a nutshell, that's what universal design for learning is. Again, it's really not intended to be something that it's not a checklist. It really is something that is a framework for how you engage the learner, so that you are motivating them to learn in ways that make sense for them. And I am going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions that y'all have about either the Title III grant or what we're doing with universal design for learning approach. Let me prompt you with this one. So how did I get involved in universal design for learning? Came out of this, it was a while back, and it was when online learning really started to be like a thing. And Purdue, I was at Purdue at the time, and they needed a bunch of people to pilot, to test out, like, what is this online learning thing, and is it worth investing in, right? So so I joined that group, and the thing that I was doing at that time, I don't know if universal design for learning was something that people were talking about, but I came out of K-12, and so we were talking about the holistic learning approach, or the constructivist approach to learning. So you are constructing that knowledge base. And so I started teaching that to the faculty at Purdue, and we started building out a problem-based learning approach and using that in online learning. And what we found is that the more we engaged our students in multiple ways, the more they were engaged in learning process. Otherwise, we were finding that they were completely disengaged. What are your experiences like right now with engagement in the classroom, regardless of modality? Are you finding that the students are you finding that you're struggling with engagement? No?
I can say
Hi,
something.
Alexis. Oh, go ahead, Jose.
Sorry, no, somebody jumped in ahead of me. I don't want to trample over them. Oh,
No,
well, okay. This is kind of maybe a little bit not directly answering that question. I mean, sometimes, I think there are always that group of students who are very well engaged, and I think they would be engaged with any instructor, because that's the kind of person they are and that kind of learner they are.
Yeah.
I think the other, but what always occurs to me is how much teaching is a personality driven business.
Yes.
And so I think as part of the universal design kind of thinking, I'm wondering about not only what are we creating as instructors, but how is universal design maybe informing us about how we present ourselves and how we engage with students, so that we are not only engaging with the students who are going to engage anyway,
Right.
but somehow we're able to draw out those other students. And I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
do you see that as you're creating that universal design? Are
Yeah.
you seeing that is helping you think about differently how I actually communicate with individuals and so on and so forth?
That is such a great observation, Jose, because it really is, there's a lot there, right? And you're going to have off days as much as you're going to have on days when you're teaching, for sure. And universal design for learning isn't, it's not the fix-all to everything, because you're still going to have those students who are disengaged, and there's nothing you're going to do to get them in the ring, right? They're just going to be who they're going to be. But yeah, I do think that for me, it was a lot about just try. I was just so desperate at that moment because, you know, the internet was just new at this point in time. And so the students were completely disengaged and off doing their thing that they're still doing, right? They're giggling, they're doing their stuff. It's now even worse, right? Because we've got social media and they're just their heads aren't in the game. So you have to create ways to address the learner today that is counterintuitive to who you are, who I am anyway. So yeah, I think it's about learning how to communicate, but not just learning how to communicate well, learning how to communicate to a group of people who don't necessarily think like you think. And I think that's the thing that I'm learning is getting feedback from my students frequently to say, does this make sense? Is this helping you? And putting it in a way, even asking them, does this make sense? Because no one wants to admit to the fact that it doesn't make sense. They don't want to appear stupid. But if you find a way to ask the question, is this helping you? Or give them an anonymous way to give you feedback that says, what can I do to help support you better in this class? And, you know, do something like that. I think it is getting to that place of communicating and understanding from multiple perspectives what your student needs. And I find that when I ask the how might I question, how might I make this better for you? I'm learning as much about where I'm maybe not on the ball enough as a faculty member. Yeah, but I think it comes down to what are you doing that's authentically you in the class, because they'll know if you're faking it. And then the other thing is trying to understand it from multiple perspectives, because you might think that you're hitting your student holistically, but you may still be missing that boat. And that's where you have this community of practice idea that I want to build out, because we're going to learn more from each other than we are ever going to learn, you know, alone. And so the more opportunities we have to engage with each other and say, hey, can you sit in on my class and see if I'm doing this okay, and not be afraid to ask that. You know, I'm constantly saying to David and Caroline, look at my class, audit this, tell me if this works, and getting feedback from them to say, you know, and I've got a PhD in instructional design, but I don't trust myself. Amy.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, because I feel like my earbuds are gonna die at any minute. But thank you so much, Jose, and thank you, Alexis and CTRL for this session. I am really, it's very humbling and exciting to like learn about all of these things, and just to like kind of piggyback off of what Jose's reflection is. I think another thing Jackie said, and that Jackie Smith said it when she came and spoke to the CAS working group, was also thinking about how different students interpret feedback or critique.
Yes.
It's just a profoundly, it is difficult for them, and for a number of reasons, not the least of which is just our kind of like post-pandemic trauma, trying to work through that. And it's something that I think in the visual arts and just in writing too, where you're workshopping things, and it's predicated on this pedagogy. A lot of it is predicated on this back and forth, this dialogue around feedback and critique, and like constructive critique, that they are starting off in a very different place than even we were, you know, when we were learning how to do this. So that's a big thing. The other that I'm noticing and that I'm hearing feedback from the visual art instructors. The other thing, and you mentioned, Alexis, about the, you know, when you were starting to get into this, it was sort of like, you know, the internet was relatively new. I think that's the other thing, is just as someone who's an elder millennial, like, yes, there were technological advances in our formative years, but nothing as transformative as the iPhone.
Yeah.
So it is really like hard for me, or like I'm learning to just step back and see that there is like a profound generational gap
Yes.
between a relatively short amount of years. And
Yes.
I think that's the other piece where UDL really helps me, is thinking through those things and approaching these things that aren't really articulated. They're definitely not articulated within disciplinary like content discussions or
Yeah.
in our training. But those are just some observations I want to throw out there.
Thank you so much, Amy. And you hit on something that was really important, and that is how do they take up the feedback, right? And that is generational, I think, to some degree. But it's also, I think it goes to it needs a further exploration, right? Because just like I think I might understand how I can approach a holistic teaching environment, I do have to think about how my students are taking up the feedback. They want a lot of it, they want more of it, and it takes a lot out of us to give it. How are the ways in which we can provide that feedback in ways they're going to hear it and use it for something good? And I agree with you. I think that's something that isn't right now in the literature, and we probably need to explore that a lot, because that is coming up a lot. They want feedback, and learning how to give it, that's a talent. Yeah, really great observations. And I want to go and say, I've been doing this for a while, but I don't think that I'm an expert. And for the reasons that we're all exploring, and that is generationally, the needs are different. And so what might have worked 10 years ago when I started this work is probably not going to be relevant now. I'm almost 20 years that I've been doing some of this work, is not going to be as relevant. Look at how online learning has changed. And this is not an approach just for online learning. This is an approach regardless of modality, but just in general. Let me ask this question for those faculty members who are on the call. We do have Louis committed for July 15th through the 17th. I'm hoping that date works. That's typically when we do offer our Summer Institute. And I'm hoping that the incentivization is also something worthy of this. Is there a good way for me to get the information out to faculty about this save the date and what this is going to be about, other than this kind of lunch and learn, which is what I was hoping to do today? But are there other avenues to that?
I think going through the chairs, like,
Okay.
I don't know if there's going to be another like chairs and program director meeting for CAS. I'm sure there will be like one last one. We just had one last week. I don't know.
Okay.
That might be a productive way. I'm not so sure about College of Health and Wellness. You can also like, yeah, I don't know how helpful I'm being. I'm just like, you can add an email the program directors to or something.
Program directors, yeah, chairs, program directors.
I suggest you use the all faculty list.
No, yeah.
Going through
Probably more
USA
efficient.
all faculty list.
Do we have access to that?
I do.
I'm looking at my Spock. Okay, good.
So I know a lot of faculty are off over the summer.
Yeah.
Would it be beneficial for a physical mailing, even just like a postcard or something to be sent through the mailroom, or is that just kind of redundant? Like I'll be working with marketing. I think Alexis and Caroline and I are going to be doing that. So any ideas, recommendations would be great.
You know, that would catch the attention, because right now, you know, as we're heading into wrapping up the academic year, it's a very busy time.
Yeah.
Right.
So a postal mailer, if you've got it in your budget, yeah, that might capture a few.
Sending the invite before the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. We want to get it out probably within the
Mhm.
next week, probably immediately after Easter, because no one's paying any attention this week.
Yeah, I can do a save the date, but I know that's not enough time for marketing to get something put together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's a good idea. We can do a save the date and then follow up.
The other thing to think about from a contract standpoint, at least with College of Arts and Sciences, is the program directors and the chairs are typically on a reduced contract over the summer. So those are part of why that's maybe a good audience to target, is because they're getting compensated over the summer. It is hard, I would say, to you know, so then there's the balance too of the faculty who are actually off contract, and like what are we asking of them. And I know you have like the incentivization pieces, but just if that would help, kind of like if we're thinking about audience demographics, like targeting who's most likely to come and show up, who would be most interested in this. That's the other thing. Yeah, and I would talk with marketing. I talked with John in April to see if like that, if a physical mailer would be worth it. You know, it might, I don't know, but they might have better metrics on those types of things.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds really great. My goal is to, like I said, I would love to see us have 20 faculty members who are truly dedicated to trying to build this out. And the reason I'm thinking about a universal design for learning approach, it's really focusing the attention on the inclusivity, right? It's not saying we're going to make accommodations for that student who we get a letter from requiring us to make it. We're just going to be universal. We're going to be accessible regardless. And as we're seeing students coming to us post-COVID, and I hate to say post-COVID because I don't think we'll ever be in a post-COVID world, but as we're seeing students coming to us who have had the most traumatic experiences in high school, and they are developmentally behind because of this, right? So they will be experiencing we will be seeing, I think, a lot more differentiation in their skills and abilities. And I think that having ways to get that information to them, that they may not need remediation so much as they need it given to them in ways that scaffold their learning until they get there, right? So how do we help build that so that they are getting those, we're building in the scaffolds to support the student who isn't there, while creating space for the students who have it, right? We're teaching at multiple skill levels. We're going to be, we're dealing with a wholly different experience. We're talking about traditional age students right now predominantly, but I'm not saying that it's not true of our adult learners who we've been dealing with this for a long time, because they're coming back to school from having different experiences, whether they're working or et cetera. So yeah, looking at this from the perspective of differing abilities in the classroom and trying to manage that from an engagement perspective, trying to manage it from a teaching perspective so that we're not getting students, so we're not failing our students, that we're knowing when and how to put those support systems in place. Some of the things coming out of Title III that the Center for Academic Achievement is helping me with is embedded tutors in our Compass program, in our Compass classes. That's really cool. And then CAA has also built out some great faculty resources, the faculty toolkit. Go back and watch that video if you haven't seen that, because Carlow gave a great presentation on those resources. So building capacity for us to meet the student where they are, and that's part of our Mercy mission. And so that's why I really would love to have this community of practice dedicated to this, so that we're learning and growing with each other and building capacity for ourselves in what we're doing. So any other questions that you have about the what UDL is, what the Title III grant is, and what we're doing with that, or anything that you had that's other questions that you have burning desire to learn more about?
I actually have one, Alexis.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm doing the course redesign and everything, and I guess I'm wondering if there has been anything written about the success of getting instructors to implement UDL. And I think related to that for me would be, it could probably seem overwhelming to some instructors, because I know you said it's not a whole course redesign necessarily.
Yeah.
It could sound very overwhelming, and that could be something. And the other thing I guess connected to that is, and I'm thinking as I'm doing the redesign, is how do I maybe create some models of a universal design, kind of template of one change and how it carries through into all those different stages and so on. I just wonder about those things, those easy kind of small steps that people can make towards a bigger UDL kind of framework.
Really great question, Jose. And I think that's where the beauty of where we are at Carlow plays into this too, because you've got David, Caroline, and myself who are already, we're instructional designers, so we can help any faculty look to say, where's the low-hanging fruit? Where am I already doing some of this? And then where can we build from there? Like I said, with my own class, I just took the syllabus because that was the lowest hanging fruit I could find. And I was doing some training and I thought, well, I'm going to just build this out. But when we're talking about a full redesign like you're doing, Jose, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit down and look at the content you've already designed, right? We're going to look at that and see where you're already doing this without labeling it universal design for learning. And then we're going to build it out from there, looking at what your goals are. What are your learning? What goals do you have for your students? And then where can we start building in these strategies? So for example, maybe it's an activity where you want to have them, you've got yourself lecturing on this PowerPoint. Well, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that the PowerPoint is well designed, and so the PowerPoint is accessible. And the next thing we might want to do is record you and put some captions in for the Panopto version of this. So maybe you're teaching in real time, but you record your lecture and you have it available to any student who might need a refresher or might need to go back and listen to that. And then maybe we add on some examples of activities they can do to demonstrate that they heard what you said, whether it's a discussion post or some activity that they would have to do. And maybe the discussion post, we do it in Padlet, and we do it in a different way, and we incorporate some other technologies. So those are the kinds of things that we'll do with you and see, okay, where does it make sense to design something and look at it from this perspective, from this holistic learner perspective. And we may find that a complete redesign using UDL isn't the complete answer. We might want to just look at it from the perspective of where will it enhance the learning? Where will it support the student better? What concepts do they struggle with the most? Because that's the other thing that we did at Purdue is I would take a course where, we were looking at, this was a communication, no, it was a writing class. Actually, it was the English 104 class. And we looked at this and we saw that the students were struggling over and over and over again around the whole idea of even writing a thesis statement, right? So that's fundamental. So we took that thesis statement and we UDL'd that. We just created an expression where they could do a peer evaluation of each other's sentence. They could talk it through, those kinds of things. So we just look at and see where we want to put it in there. But again, it doesn't have to be the whole thing, right? It could be, in your case, we're doing it as the whole redesign because we're looking at building out the new Compass program, right? So we're spending some real quality time with that. But a faculty member who just wants to say, hey, I have students who are really struggling with this concept, or they're disengaged and here's where I'm seeing the problems. We can pop in and say, okay, let's think that through with you. Yeah. One of the ones that I wanted to point out to you was this paper that I'm reading right now, and I'll send it to anybody who wants to read it. It's Professional Development with Universal Design for Learning, Supporting Teachers as Learners to Increase the Implementation of UDL. So it talks about, some of the pushback, some of the difficulties faculty have, like, for example, the fact that, oh my gosh, it takes forever. We don't want to spend that kind of time designing, or we don't want to spend that kind of time. Yes, I will. We don't want to spend that kind of time grading. That's real stuff. This is a lot. This is a lot to take on. So those are the other things that we want to think about when we're building this out, is the amount of time it's going to take you as the faculty member to do this work. There are places you want to add it in, and then there are places that you're like, yeah, if I had 3 different representations of the way in which a student's going to give me back this information, and I got 60 students and over 3 sections, I'm not doing universal design for learning. Yeah. So, but we do want to err to the side of, most importantly, are our classes accessible? And I think at the end of the day, that's the lowest hanging fruit, that we are adhering to those things. Like, for example, going to Panopto and making sure that our stuff is captioned, making sure that our PowerPoint presentations are they're accessible, making sure that if our syllabus is posted in its traditional format, that there is another option that is readable using a screen reader, things like that. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy that there's some attendance here from people who might want to join our group. To Jose's point, I think that one of the things that could come out of this, I know some of us are interested in writing about it, in diving into the practitioner scholar work that we do here at Carlow. If that's of interest to anybody, please let me know, because we can do a whole lot of work around this. And I'm looking at it very carefully through the lens of our Mercy mission, and thinking about the Mercy mission as a pedagogy, and universal design for learning as the framework for implementing that pedagogy. So I'm really interested in anybody who wants to jump on that bandwagon with me. But that's all I got today. Unless anybody has any other questions or thoughts they want to share. And I just really can't thank Jose and Tessa enough. Thanks, Bridget, because I'm excited to have you on this journey with us. I think having a Compass program to build out our pilot is going to be really cool. Okay, guys, happy Monday. We will resume our regular programming. When do we have our next lunch and learn? Is it this Wednesday or next?
This Wednesday, and then I think the week of this Wednesday, next Wednesday.
I think we've got Sarah Oliver Carter this Wednesday. Somebody's talking on DEIA. Is that Sarah?
Yes. Pulling it up. Yeah, Sarah on the 27th, and then Richard and Luke on the 3rd, and then our Monday ones as well. The 8th awesome. And the May 6th.
Okay, great. Yeah, we added a few Monday ones just because people were asking about a couple different topics. And so we just added a couple, this one and the other one that I'm doing.
library update.
Oh yeah, library update, budget, and what it means to you. How what impact does our budget cuts have on you?
Yeah.
Flat budget means cut budget in library land for anybody who was wondering about a budget cut. So, okay, guys, take care. Thank you for being here today. Bye.